Hello, Straight Talk audience. This is AI Gonzalo Lira, and this is Straight Talk, Cyber Cafe Edition.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Liberty Report with Professor Red Pill and Adam Mad Maxwell. I just dropped my coffee all over. It's all good, no worries. We're going through. But there was a Fed meeting today. They came out with the GDP numbers. We averted the double secret recession that I predicted may happen, but I guess the numbers were better than we expected. And yeah, they talked about a lot of different things like AI. They talked about immigration affecting jobs, job growth, and what the economy's doing, and we're gonna get into that. And let's hear from Adam Maxwell, Liberty Rising Group.
Thank you very much. This 30th of July, 2025. The economy keeps going. The numbers have been released, the government statistics, which are as they are. And we'll go through them. Importantly, is the world getting better? Now, these statistics both may serve to provide some kind of quantification, some data that shows yes, the world is getting better, or no, it's not. But there's also my perspective on government statistics is never trust the government, meaning, regardless of whether they're good or bad, how do you feel? How do you feel in your life? It's not quite solipsism, but if you can't see something empirically, it's worth pursuing additional research.
I agree 100%. I mean, we know the inflation numbers they're bad. They're really bad. And the news media, let me turn my camera back on for you guys. Sorry. Yeah. Basically the media was asking, I mean, they kept hounding, Powell, like, hey, what's going on with inflation? Why are you not lowering interest rates? Because the inflation numbers are looking like they did in December when you lowered the interest rates. Why don't you lower the interest rates again to tackle a little bit of inflation? And Powell's response was, well, the economy's looking good. We still have a very strong economy in the United States, apparently, is what he's saying. And although we do know inflation numbers are going to be getting worse because of the tariffs, Trump's tariffs, and also the big, beautiful bill, which is going to obviously affect inflation because what is $2 trillion they added? It's basically a stimulus bill is what it was, guys. It was a stimulus bill. Guys, is a tax break. And he's like, yeah, I mean, he didn't mention that, but that's also going to be a contributing factor, I think, to inflation. But mostly it's the tariffs. That's the big what if. And he did mention, he's like, yeah, I mean, honestly, like I saw the press briefing today. A lot of his answers, the guy obviously knows his stuff, man. That guy knows his stuff. He seemed a little nervous, especially around the inflation, because I think he knows that inflation's going to be bad going into the fall, which we're predicting. I predicted this 10 years ago, or at least like I've been pushing it for the last 4 years with the podcast and the Telegram group. Links in the description, and links in the description for Adam Maxwell's Liberty Rising group as well. Join that as well. He's got a lot of good stuff that he posts there. But more importantly, the thing is that inflation's the big deal. That's the big issue. It's not so much about jobs per se, because the question did come up with AI. Is AI going to replace jobs? Me personally, my stance on it, I've said it vocally in the Telegram. I don't know if I've actually mentioned it in the podcast, but I will mention it now. I don't think AI is going to take your job, dude. I really don't. I think AI is going to create jobs. Powell also said the same thing. He said it's probably going to create some jobs. It's something that we're looking at right now. I don't think it's and I think he did mention that it's more of the private sector that's going to be more associated with than an actual Fed issue, which he's right. It's going to be, innovation always creates jobs. You see, as I said before, previous podcast, it's not so much AI taking jobs or causing job issues. It's government policies. Government is the reason why jobs are lost. The reason why jobs they take credit for job gains, but really it's private sector that creates jobs. It's the marketplace that creates jobs. The consumer index. These things are what creates jobs. There's demand, service sector as well as retail sector, and this is what creates an economy. Adam knows better than I do. He's the economist, but I'm a policy expert and a sociologist, and I can tell you throughout history, going back to industrial revolutions, being the third industrial revolution with computers, they were like, "Oh, computers are going to take our jobs. They're going to take our jobs," but it's no. It actually created more jobs. We have the internet now. We created high tech jobs. And, just like any type of service jobs, and like they had to lay pipes, they had to lay fiber optic lines that created labor, that created not just high tech. People were they're putting fiber optic lines, updating power grids. It created a lot of jobs, technology. So I'm not against AI. I just think that AI is going to be a bubble in the sense that corporate investment, because I think that the gamblers on Wall Street, as Max Kaiser calls them, are going to over speculate in AI, which they have done. I don't know the numbers exactly. Adam probably knows it better than I do. But really, the reality is that I'm predicting an AI bust in the fall. That you're going to see a lot of this overinvestment into AI, into different sectors. We're already seeing it with Meta, obviously. And I don't know what Google's doing. I mean, a lot of these companies, a lot of these big what we call them, they're big tech companies. We've covered this many times in previous podcasts. Different seasons that we've covered over this with jobs and with AI and with tech and everything. But for the most part, I think the three things that we need to be concerned with is healthcare. Obviously, insurance and healthcare is going to take a hit probably in the fall. AI, big tech is going to take a big hit. And the other thing that's going to be affected is anything dealing with energy or transportation, rather. Energy is obviously taking a hit too, because the oil, oil's at $70 a barrel, $60 a barrel. So a lot of these oil companies are running at cost at this point. What are your thoughts, Adam?
Artificial intelligence, how amazing. How fantastic that we have this new tool in the world. Something that would be science fiction only a few years ago, let alone decades. And it's going to radically transform our lives from now until forever. That's a fact. So, will AI take your job? Artificial intelligence will likely transform most, if not all, jobs in some manner. Doesn't mean they're going to destroy your jobs, but it does mean they're going to be transformed. Innovation always creates jobs, but also necessarily jobs are destroyed. This is the engine of capitalism. It's called creative destruction. Something new comes along, it's more efficient, it outcompetes the old, outdated, inefficient technologies or services or jobs, and this is how economies grow. So just throughout history, innovation, especially technological innovation, it creates jobs, but it also displaces. Some people, like for example in the UK, the coal miners, they were all taken out of work because of oil. And then the government shut it down. When it comes to artificial intelligence, interestingly, it's not actually economic. It's more a security issue. If you look at the big investment into AI, it's government. It's like military industrial complex. It's government. The big investment into AI, billions and billions, government. It's a security matter. It's not economic because it's not actually dealing with a scarce good. What it is doing is putting tremendous strain on the energy sector. So just in, I think yesterday, a report that artificial intelligence in Wyoming may soon use more electricity than state's human residents, using 87.6 terawatt hours, doubling the state's current energy production. Now, I don't know if that includes all industrial capacity, but if artificial intelligence in Wyoming, and I don't know if like AI centers are placed there. I don't know all the context. Just as a headline, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, a lot of the tech like warehouses, a lot of the stuff is in rural areas where the land is cheapest. Most likely, like, from what I understand, Georgia, like the southeast, not Florida, but like mid South,
Well,
Georgia,
Wyoming
as well. Yeah, I mean, anywhere where the land is cheap and it's rural, where they can easily buy up land cheap and warehouse. It's basically wherever you're going to find your warehousing is where you're going to probably find these IT. I don't have the data in front of me, but I do know there's a lot of them outside of Atlanta because Atlanta's a very big tech hub. So they're all over the country. They're geographically located everywhere. So, but mostly in rural areas right now.
The other thing to say about bubbles and financial markets, whenever there is something new, something exciting, something truly innovative, there is always, I don't know if it's always, but there's pretty much always a bubble. This is again creative destruction. How does a new market or a radically transformed market determine its price structure? The lines on the chart. Why does the price go here, 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 here? It has to enter a price discovery where the lines start moving and prices are determined and buyers buy and sellers sell, and that creates the upper and lower bounds of the trend. So price discovery creates market structure, and this is what the macro trends are all about. This is the .com bubble, the housing bubble. I mean, there's many more factors into those, but the .com, you can say new technology. Everyone said this is all the rage. Investing. Lots of money flows in, and there's an overinvestment. There's a malinvestment. Certainly AI, that there's been no depression in AI assets, nor in most all assets. We are in a period of not just boom, but super boom, because the government printer keeps printing. So there may be an AI, there is certainly an AI bubble, just like there is certainly a housing bubble, there is certainly a stocks bubble everything, because we're in the super bubble, the super boom, the era of QE infinity. The prices should have collapsed 18 years ago, 2007, 2008. There shouldn't have been these bailouts. So,
I mean, it's all fiat at the end of the day. There's a lot of debt. Apparently, what I've been researching, the amount of debt that's global debt in the marketplace is 3 times the global GDP. Apparently, is what the current data analysis is that there's so much debt, and this is probably consumer debt with everything. I just know the total debt is literally 3 times the GDP. I think,
and that doesn't mean that the world is more in debt than it has value. It means the total value produced in a year, you need 3 of them to be equivalent to the global debt.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, the main thing is it's still fiat at the end of the day, so it can be consolidated. They can always. I mean, this is nothing new. So, main thing is human capital, innovation. That's the main thing. Trade, production. This is
human capital and innovation. I think it's the Solow model. It's been a while since I did developmental economics, but the human capital, technology, and the population level, which goes into human capital. These are the 2 long-term determinants of economic growth.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing to say is, if you owe 1 million coins, what's the best way to pay that off? Print more coins. If you owe 1 million units of fiat, of literally digits on the screen, the best way to pay that off is print 1 million digits. Obviously, it's going to have negative economic consequences for everyone that uses your digits, but it's the best way for you, the government, to pay it off. This is a large driver of why inflation is a core mechanism of fiat monetary policy, because they're in debt, and the more they inflate, the less they actually owe. But what they're doing is stealing from everyone else that's using the currency. Not only are they doing that, but
domestically and internationally as well, whoever uses the dollar.
Not only are they stealing your purchasing power, but it's also accumulating in the haves, in the rich, in the shareholders, in the ruling class and the capital share class. And those who do not have assets, those on fixed wages especially, or just regular wages, if you're working a 9 to 5, if you have debt, you're struggling because your money is worth less and your earnings are not rising as much. The only other thing I'd say before you can get more into the inflation is when it comes to inflation, it's always a monetary phenomena, meaning when prices go up, that is a symptom of inflation, not the cause of it. And so inflation is an increase in the money supply, which means central bank printing of money. And that central bank printing goes through the economy, through government spending, through assets. It goes through the economy. And by the time it reaches you, the consumer, the real economy, it's about 18 months. So when you're looking at the inflationary indicators and data, it's a lag. There's about an 18-month delay. And this is something I don't hear anyone talking about, but I was taught it.
I think Powell mentioned that. Powell did mention that a little bit, but he didn't say 18 months. He just said that, yeah, this is something that is going to be, inflation is going to come eventually, and they'll tackle it when it comes. But he basically just said that the economy at this point in time in the United States is strong. So there's no point to them to lower interest rates at this period of time, is what he had basically said. So yeah. So
you look at the calendar 18 months ago, how much money was printed by the USA, and it's kind of maps. There's many factors, of course, but what they're saying is, yes, we're devaluing the dollar, yes, because the dollar is worth less, but we are growing the economy, and it kind of balances out. Are they growing the economy? Do you feel like the economy is strong? And again, we talk about energy, transportation, and then AI and big tech. If the industrial revolution, we're in the fourth industrial revolution, this digital revolution. The industrial revolution in Britain, and I haven't studied Germany, Russia as much, but in Britain, the theory was
the
first industrial revolution.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because that was Britain. That was basically 100% Britain. Yeah, the first one.
The theory was, if we can, this is the classical economists, if we can reduce the cost of production by reducing the economic rent people pay, then we can be more competitive, we can produce, we can export that produce, and we can become very wealthy as a result. So what the government of Britain at the time did, is they liberalized the economy. They took away the landlord class and the aristocratic class who owned all this land. They said, we're going to take away your powers over the land to reduce the rents for the working class and enable the working class to either build their own factories or go work in factories and have their costs come down. Instead of paying $2,500 a month in rent, modern day equivalent, if we can bring the cost of rent down, then it will cost us, wages don't have to be so high. We can become more competitive. We can produce, we can build up our industry, export, and then our country is stronger, economy's growing, and all problems resolve themselves through economic development. This is definitely not the understanding of the economic policies today.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I'm seeing internationally right now is that salaries have pretty much cut in half around the world in the market, the developing economies. Um, the cost of living has gone up because they're dependent on consumer goods, or at least technologies from the West, from Western economies. And the cost of energy in Europe has gone up tremendously. So, and when I'm speaking of the salaries have decreased, is like in the GCC in the Gulf Coast region, which is Saudi Arabia, Qatar, these areas. Salaries have decreased significantly in parts of Eastern Europe. They've decreased significantly, and I believe Russia to an extent they've decreased a little bit from what I'm observing, and parts of Asia. But in the United States, they have gone up, but not like 1%, 2%. They haven't been adjusted with inflation. Now you have to understand, Russia's inflation, I think, is at 19% right now. They just did a rate cut, because they're going through hyperinflation at a substantially larger rate than Europe or America right now. The European economy is bad. The reason why it's bad is because of the high cost of energy. But again, the salaries, from what I understand, have either decreased or they haven't gone up. Cost of living has obviously doubled. And the United States cost of living has doubled, where, like I said, the inflation is not accurate at all, going back to pre-COVID to post-COVID. Literally, in the inflation in the United States, just in the particular sector, not as far as energy is concerned. Energy in the United States, the energy has actually decreased since COVID. But the cost of, like, infrastructure, feed, agriculture, these things have increased tremendously, and I think it comes down to where the exporting. This is where Trump, I think, came in, was like, hey, we gotta start doing tariffs, because the imports, because America's very dependent on imports. So is China. China's very heavily dependent on imports as well, mostly for energy. And Trump's like, hey, we got to start doing tariffs, because they keep increasing the prices in the United States, and Europe included. I mean, Europe is not exempt from this. Europe has been rapidly increasing the cost of imports, and then it's because they self-sanction themselves with the war in Ukraine. Obviously, we've been talking about this for many years. Their energy is outrageous, and I mean, what is it, 4 or 5 times the cost of energy in continental Europe compared to the United States? Even China, I think it's even cheaper than China, and they're an industrial output. I mean, they're an industrial capable trade union. They've really destroyed their economics, and especially with their net zero initiatives. When I flew into Austria and Germany, I'm just seeing windmills everywhere, and I'm like, dude, this is not a sustainable energy source. I mean, coal, nuclear, hydroelectric, these are more sustainable and a lot more efficient ways of conducting energy or acquiring energy. And they pretty much like, oh, we're going to cut all this out. It's like, oh, okay, well, good luck with your economies. Versus the United States, they've been implementing more clean coal burning plants. I think they've been investing a lot in nuclear energy. They want to get more nuclear power plants put together, hydro dam projects, things like that. So that's where I definitely see the growth that the Fed was talking about, is that America is trying to become more of an energy producing economy. This actual question came up in particular, Pallet answered, and he answered it very accurately, correctly. Because I've said this before and I've done the research. So what he said was exactly what I've done research in my doctorate program with developing economies. 1970s went through an oil crisis, and he was like, they were talking about energy, and he was like, well, America compared to the 1970s to today is America was much more dependent on oil from the Middle East, because they were asking about the Israeli, Iran conflict. And he was like, America's just not as dependent as they were before. And that's very true. America, like I said,
America is the greatest energy producer on earth. Like the number one, they produce the most amount. It's just America is also huge. And they're exporting energy, and they need more energy. And
yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's energy. That's it. That energy is your economy. That's your production. That's your innovation. So if you have your energy situation under control, what America does, it's just a matter of, okay, well, what are we going to do with this? Are we going to invest more in agriculture and domestic, agricultural projects, infrastructure projects? Are we going to create
Well,
jobs that way?
you say
that's
America
where it goes
does
on.
have it under control. The Keystone Pipeline, for example, was years and years, perhaps a decade or two in the making. Biden comes in day one, cancels it, and there was, years, maybe decades of planning and investment. It shut down
Right.
for at least his presidency. I don't even know
But
if
of
Trump
course,
has
we're,
restarted that.
we're talking about oil prices being at $100 a barrel at that time versus now they're at 60 to 70, and they're not going to go any higher than that. I'm an expert in this, by the way. So, I predicted, I said by summer we would see probably $67 a barrel. We're in summer, $67 a barrel. I said that the Israeli conflict is not really it's going to go up. And Powell said the same exact thing as me. So you can listen to the experts and the Fed, and everything he said is exactly what I said and what my analysis. So the guy knows his stuff, man. And I'm not saying that I'm expert on everything or anything like that, but I mean, I'm very knowledgeable in a lot of this stuff, which is why you guys follow us. But more or less, like I said, the thing is the oil. I still see oil going back to $100 a barrel. If it would have went $100 a barrel, it would have went up $100 a barrel during the Ukrainian conflict, which it did temporarily. It came back down. Powell mentioned this. Same thing with Israel conflict. If it would be at $100 a barrel, it would have went to $100 a barrel. It didn't go. And the reason why is because Europe is not consuming as much oil. China is not consuming as much oil. There's a lot of oil in this world right now. Russia has a lot of it. I mean, Russia has, like Iran in particular, has so much oil and gas right now that they cannot sell. They're literally just taking the gas, their petrol, putting it in bags in the back of Mijikus, like these like trucks, and they're just delivering it across borders. I mean, it's like there's so much supply right now. There's just not enough demand, and this is on a global scale. And there's finds all over the planet right now. There's a lot of oil, and the oil companies. As I told you, Max, Adam, before we began this podcast earlier today, when oil's at $70 a barrel, oil companies are just running at capacity, and OPEC's running at capacity. They're basically making enough to keep the pumps going. They're running at skeleton crews. They're not hiring. They're doing cuts. So they're laying people off in the oil industry globally. Now when oil starts hitting above 75, that's when they're like, okay, let's go ahead and start ramping up some production, try to make our profit margins here. At $100 a barrel, that's when oil companies and governments, especially state-owned oil companies, are like, okay, now it's time to start investing in some new finds and start pumping and extracting, and because it takes years to get an actual oil find into production. It takes many years because the equipment, the moving, the personnel, finding it, you can't do it very quickly. There's a huge process involved with it, and we're just not at that right now. So companies, basically oil companies, are just they're just pumping at capacity, storing what they can store. And the other thing is about the consumer index. The reason why I think the economy did grow a little bit is because the actual inflation has actually hit Western economies right now, or at least the United States in particular. Reason why is a surplus of goods. We have a lot of warehouses in America. There's warehouses everywhere. And a lot of people are reselling products. Actually, the price of products are coming down, which indicates that there is a surplus of goods. This as an economist. So I just don't see the tariffs really affecting America as badly as like economists are trying to say, like, oh, it's gonna be the end of the world or stuff like that. No, there's a lot of surplus, guys. There's a lot of product. Like I remember Walmart in particular, like driving around different parts of the country. And I know because my brother's a long haul truck driver, so he tells me as well. He said, like, the ports in Los Angeles, one of the largest ports in the United States, so they just have stacks and stacks and stacks of just basically ship, like the freight, the crates. And He said it's just bumper to bumper getting in and out. And he said there's just so much there. They don't even they're just sitting there at the port. They have nowhere to put it. Taking it to warehouse, they have nowhere to put it. So they're just stacking up these crates outside of Walmarts and big box stores, and then outside the warehouse, just stacking these trailers. And just consumers aren't buying. They're not buying. They're not traveling. The economy is at a standstill. Basically, it's slowing down, and this is on a global scale. So there's a lot of surplus in consumer goods. There's a lot of even housing. There's a lot of inventory. You see it here in Georgia. I've showed you guys many times. I'm in Tbilisi here in the capital, and I'm in like one of the districts that I'm in right now. This is the fastest growing district in the country. There is buildings going up all over, and I'm seeing a lot of empty flats. I mean, the house across looks like people are starting to move in and buy properties, but even my building's 5 years old. There's still properties inside this building that haven't been sold yet for 5 years. So, I mean, there's a lot of growth, man. You go look at Dubai, go look at China, all over the world. There's a lot of inventory, housing, real estate, you name it. There's just a surplus. It's just this consumer driven society, fiat currency, just like happened in '08, oversupply of stuff. People have too much they don't need. And there's just nothing to do. So that's what I'm saying. I think that there's going to be a correction, and it's going to probably happen in the fall. And we saw this during COVID because we were headed into a recession in COVID. And they used COVID, I think, as a smokescreen, to push Trump's, COVID vaccine, because he was pushing it. And then the Democrats were like, oh, we're going to push it because everybody's getting money on it. The big pharma made trillions of dollars on a global scale on it. It was like the biggest scam of all time, man. And that's basically it. I mean, there's this oversupply of everything. I think commodities are going to see major corrections because obviously we're seeing it with salaries. We're seeing it with like I said, salaries have halved, and a lot of these oil rich countries, like said Saudi Arabia, they're paying half what they were pre-COVID. For oil industry jobs, for service jobs, tech jobs, anything, education, a lot of stuff. They just cut the salaries in half, and this is on a global scale. It seems like. So you are seeing the only thing that's up right now is real estate property. That's it. But automotive's starting to come down. We're starting to see corrections in the automotive market. We're seeing corrections in like I said, the consumer market and certain things, electronics definitely. That's always going down because you have innovation. But there's an oversupply. There's phones. Like I was thinking about buying a new phone. I was like, they wanted like $100 for this phone that was like $300-400. It's a brand new phone. It was like $300 or $400 like 2 to 3 years ago, maybe a year ago. And it's like, I don't really want it. You know what I mean? I just don't need it. I thought my phone was broke. I had to buy a new phone, but I was like, never mind. There's just nobody. Everybody has enough. They have enough stuff. There's so much consumer goods that people have enough stuff, and I think there's going to be a correction. That's what I think's coming. What do you think, Adam? I'm sorry, I keep going and going. What are your response on this?
No problem. So the GDP figures came out for this quarter. The last quarter, the United States economy grew at a 3% annual rate. This follows a 0.5% drop.
That's right.
The first quarter. What does that mean? Is the economy grown 3%? No, again, annual rate. So like divide that by 4. Okay. And it's inflation adjusted. Okay. But again, this is the government GDP figure. Things are measured and, in order to support the government narrative. Now, we've said for years now, we cannot predict when this war in Ukraine will be over, but we didn't anticipate before it would be over before at least autumn of this year. We said, if we have to make a prediction 2 years ago, maybe fall of 2025, but it could keep going. They can keep throwing bodies at it, As far as I'm concerned, the war's won. Just fighting continues. The point is to say that if you have a macro, strong principled position that this war will not be over before fall 2025, then over the summer, the narrative of the economic growth statistics is going to be bullish, positive. Yay! That's again, I don't trust government statistics. So they say, well, imports, the imports were high in the first quarter, and now they're lower because of the tariffs, and this makes GDP grow because if you import, you're sending money away, and it reduces the GDP internally. It's a leakage. So, they're saying, well, this is kind of why the GDP has grown so much. But if you look underneath it, this is what all the mainstream media sites are saying. If you look at, to just rephrase exactly what Professor just said, underneath that alleged 3% annual growth, there's been a depression in consumer purchasing. No one's spending. So, the economy is in a lower gear. It's not going in reverse allegedly, but no one's spending because no one's got any money. And the reason they don't have any money is because of the fiat, because of the wealth, because of the wage suppression, because the economy actually is not healthy. So the government statistic, the GDP, they can manipulate it, or maybe it may show some things, but there's we have a problem in the West. We have financial economies. In the East, China, Russia, many others, they have more real economies. In Bulgaria, even, it's more a real economy. It's not so much a financial economy. What this means is if you want to invest, maybe the financial returns are not so good. But if you want to invest and really develop something, you can make a fortune. But you have to actually put the work in. It's not just numbers on paper. So I haven't really had an in-depth look at the GDP statistics and how the government are doing all this, but I suspect that a lot of the growth may just be financial activity, and that's included. And so if that's the case, then what's the real economy like? What's consumer spending? There's so many other data points than just the big GDP. But again, the religion of statism is to worship this figure, the GDP, and this is what
PPP. That's the best way to describe what's going on is PPP, because right now China's got the largest PPP in the world. So
China's got a large PPP, very large PPP.
They've got the strongest economy, but even their economy is not doing well because they can't spend money outside of China. That's why their economy's not doing well. That's what I see. They have a PPP. They have a very strong PPP.
They're strong, big, thick.
Can you explain what PPP is? I don't remember exactly what it is. You know better than I do. What it stands for.
It means
break it down for us so we understand it.
PPP means purchasing power parity. Right. The power of the purchasing and parity is kind of like a mirror comparison. If you take the exchange rate, I'll use the euro to the dollar. €1 is $1.15. However, I bet that if I spend 10 euros in Europe, and then I think I will get less goods than if I spend $11.50 in America, because the purchasing power of the dollar, I believe, is probably stronger than the euro. So this is why if you live in America and you go on holiday in Colombia, you can have a great time. You can afford the best hotels. You can afford the best. Censored.
Yeah,
you can afford a great time in Colombia.
Yeah.
So what PPP is, it's a measure of the price of specific goods in different countries, used to compare the absolute purchasing power of the country's currencies. It's effectively the ratio of a market basket of goods of one location as opposed to just the exchange rates.
Wow. I understand exactly what it means now. That makes a lot of sense. I just knew it as a good indicator of economic output for a country based. The PPP is definitely a better measurement, I think, economically from country to country versus GDP, because like I said, GDP in America, what is it, 13? I don't remember the number exactly.
30 trillion?
Yeah, something like that. It's like 30 trillion. That 30 trillion in the dollar, you know what I mean? The GDP compared to, let's say, like Republic of Georgia, where I am right now, or Georgia, the country, um, it's totally different because the cost of living is half what it is in America. So like if our GDP, and we have a smaller population per capita, and that's where the PPP comes in, because like it gives you a good indication of what the actual consumer has in
So
purchasing
if
power. But
we
again, yeah, go ahead.
if we take the United States economy, $30 trillion, I think just over. China, 2024 was just under $20 trillion. But if you go China GDP PPP, it's $40 trillion. What does that mean?
Correct.
It means because of the strength of the dollar, even though America has a larger GDP on paper, real GDP 30 trillion compared to China's 20. If you take away the power, the impact of the strength of the dollar, and you're just locally immersed, the Chinese economy is larger than America's by a third. And they've got 4 times the population. So
Correct. So when you compare the population, although the PPP is higher, I think when you compare the population density to America, it's probably about even. Maybe America has the edge a little bit, but still the PPP is relevant. It shows that there's a vibrant economy in China.
It shows that so if you're not adjusting for purchasing power, then the American economy is 50% stronger than China. But once you take purchasing power into account, I mean, how much is a carton of eggs in the USA? It's much less in China.
It's $8, $6 to $8. Last time I was there,
much less in
3-4
China.
months, yeah.
So once you take into account, you're not just looking at currency. You're not just looking at income and spending. You're looking removing the currency. You're just looking at goods and things. The Chinese economy is not 50% less than the USA. It's actually a third stronger. So that's how powerful this
your purchasing power is a little bit better in China. Yeah, because that's how it is in Georgia. It's like half the cost of living here compared to America. I mean, like a carton of eggs, like $6-8 in America. We've done the numbers before on locals. Links in the description. I think a carton of eggs here is 6 large. It's like $2-3 for a carton for 12 dozen. For a dozen eggs rather. So when you compare that to $6-8 in America, it's quite substantially the PPP, especially when the average income here is between $500 to $1,000. I keep telling Georgians all the time, like, dude, like your economy is your purchasing power is a lot better than some people have in America right now, just because like the cost for goods is a lot cheaper. You just got to manage your money a little bit better, and it's not as bad. But the thing is, the real estate's very expensive here. Services aren't that expensive, but like I said, the real estate here is quite expensive for like what you make in salary wise. That's the biggest cost here is housing. And that's because the building materials have to come from outside the country. They import them from Turkey and Europe and other places. So that's part of the reason why the housing's expensive. But in America, the housing is outrageously overpriced. And from what I understand, they still import some of the a lot of the building materials in America is actually imported, by the way, so it makes it even cheaper. So if it was actually made domestically, just imagine how expensive it would be to build a house in America. Certain things you could build locally, like your cement, your blocks, center blocks, things like that. Certain steel products can be made locally, but like it's just your hinges, nails, stuff like that you can bring from outside the country, obviously. But just imagine if everything was made in America, like, for housing, how much more expensive it would be to own a home. You'd probably be $1 million for like just a regular family size home. If you're using all American products, PPP would be even lower.
You need to address the root causes of this massive inflation in house prices, and it's not just the illegal immigrants. It's not just the importation. It's the fiat. It's a design. They want and intend assets to go up. It's a grift, but it's a grift of the monetary system. It's a grift that only the elites, the ruling elites, the Federal Reserve are capable of pulling off. No one else can do this except for the real rulers of America.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they want. They want to keep costs high. I mean, really, what it comes down to is it's not so much cost being high. It's just the bankers, special interests. They want to make the most amount of profit from each dollar that's printed, and by the time it gets to the actual consumer, it's already lost a substantial amount of its money due to inflation and interest rates and things of that nature. And the bankers, like I said, the Fed gives it to the bank, and the bank makes most of the money because they lend it out at a substantial amount of money. And the only way to really be fiscally like well off in America is to minimize your expenditures and try to, like I said, keep your spending down, but more importantly, try to pay in cash. And avoid taking credit if possible. And that's becoming more and more difficult every day, plain and simply because of the high inflation rate and the cost of living. A lot of people are just leaving the United States for not because they I don't like America or anything like that. They're just leaving because it's a cost benefit analysis. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I came to Georgia, is mostly just because the cost of living is just too high. You know what I mean? It's just I'm paying double for housing alone, like triple what I pay here, and my food costs and everything. Like, I broke down the cost of living compared to the salary range, and it's more advantageous to be here for now. I mean, I don't know. It's not looking good. That's why I mean, like, real estate. I don't want to necessarily break down the actual real estate situation, but that's the main problem, is real estate is just way too expensive. And they haven't come up with innovative ways to make real estate more affordable, because contractors, I'm just saying, contractors make a ton of money selling No, they don't want to. Like I said, the contractors, the banks that give out the loans to the contractors, the banks are like, where's my highest ROI? The highest ROI is in small family homes, or like multifamily homes, like the big, big mansions. That's where the money is in these HOAs, these McMansions of that proportions. Most of the younger generation, i.e. Zoomers and younger millennials, they literally cannot start families, so they don't need such a big house. They just need an efficiency, which is basically a 2-bedroom home at most, or a 1-bedroom apartment, and they're just not building these homes. They were building these during the these row houses and stuff, and after World War II, like these starter homes, they were building these small homes for couples, and because that's where the consumer was, that's where the consumer demand was. But now the consumer demand is in BlackRock, buying up homes, these big
BlackRock,
homes,
Vanguard,
boomers,
Blackstone,
boomers buying up.
Where is that money coming from? It's not just people. It's more. Pension funds, university endowments, wealth funds.
Government.
It's not a private company. It's public. It's government. Like BlackRock
Basically
is the government.
It's like an NGO,
but it's a corporation. It's in a private wrapper, but it's really the public. But it's government. And what they do is
it's NGO. It's basically NGO. That's the best.
Well, it's it's also for profit, but they love to invest in commercial real estate. And the money there is just ginormous. But not only that, it's not just money laundering. They move to asset laundering and inflating the costs. So this is the whole point. It's all a grift. And because they now own such a massive share of the commercial and otherwise real estate market, it's in their interest to make the profit, to pump up the prices, to import more people, to suppress wages so we can pay less in wages to the corporations, so we can get more profit, so we can invest more into real estate and assets and financial alternatives to push the prices up, because we're going to get more money, plunder, extraction, plunder, and suppress you and me. And this is their grift, and this is what the central bank and fiat and government control of the economy does. This is the mixed economy. Oh, isn't capitalism great? This isn't capitalism. This is what happens when you have a ruling class in charge of the economy, whose incentive structure is to plunder, and which means to take as much value as they can out of the system as quick a time as possible, but importantly to get as much out of the system, not to improve the system, not to engage in voluntary trade, not to sell you something, not to innovate, just to plunder. And this is government. And it's like the pension funds, for example, these like, the regulations on pension funds, like they're not allowed to hold cash. Yeah, they're allowed, they have to hold so much cash, but they've got to meet these criteria, these quotas. You have to invest this much here, this much here, this much here. It's all government orchestrated, just less than if it's a direct, or it is a direct order. It's regulated, but it's not directly controlled, but it is.
The question that I have is, have you seen this in history? Like any time in history, like 100 years, 200 years, like what's going on now economically in America? Have you seen it in history before that you can give a good comparison? Weimar Republic, maybe? Or was that more external? That was due to yeah.
Well, so what's unprecedented about where we are is the level of bureaucratization. What you have, what we've come out of feudalism. Now, it's not just that the lord owns the land and you work on the land and you pay tribute taxes to your lord, and you can't leave the land and you're a slave. That's not actually feudalism. What feudalism means is competing power centers. What bureaucracy is the centralization of power. So the state seeks to centralize power, bureaucracy, and then it seeks to go out and destroy rival castles, feudalism. Elon Musk, he's become so powerful as an entrepreneur, as a government, sucking off the government teat. He's become a rival power in himself. He's now a feudal lord over the space sector and the satellite. I think Musk owns like 50% of all satellites orbiting Earth, something ridiculous like that. I don't know. Maybe it's not Musk. Maybe it's SpaceX, which is kind of, but he's a very powerful individual.
Another private NGO, basically.
Yes. So there are so many ways you can compare aristocracy, feudalism, power centers. You can look at, say, Henry VIII, when he, like, before Henry VII, there was the king who had his properties, and it was powerful, but then you had the aristocrats and the barons, and they had their land. You had the church, and you had all these different feudal institutions. And he came in and stole all of the church's wealth, said, "This is mine now. This belongs to the king." And now all of a sudden, the king is so powerful, he doesn't have to rely on the lords to fund his wars and things. He's plundered the church. So there's a massive centralization of power, and then things fizzle and go, and there's a whole process there.
So you think that, like, to put in comparison, like what's going on now in Western economies, you're saying robber barons, these not necessarily elected kings, but the CEOs or like the wealthy bureaucrats, let's say like Elon Musk, let's say like Bill Gates, let's say like Oprah Winfrey, these individuals with like multiple amounts of money, ungodly amounts of money, they just become wealthier and richer because they are part of this oligarchy and class, and they have special interests and connections with government that basically are their representatives, if you will. And the taxpayer is the serfs that basically pay into this feudalistic type system. And more or less, we are in a modern technocratic feudalist society in the Western economies is what it seems more like, right?
And there's another word in there, syndicalism, I think it is, which is, it just describes technocratic, syndicalist, feudalism. It's just different forms. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Technocratic is kind of descriptive, but I guess so is syndicalist, although it may be kind of structural. Yes, this is what's going on. There is an oligarchic class, and we discussed this in the last episode. In the past, these feudal lords were Rockefeller, were You know, they owned the oil, they owned the rail, but they kind of had, they were, look, they wanted to make money, but they weren't seemingly as bad and nefarious as our current democratic governance, because they were kind of aristocratic. They kind of wanted a better future for their children. They kind of,
well, they did it for the common good. For the common good. Right.
And of course, they made a load of money that way.
Oh, they made a lot of money. They were monopolies. They established monopolies, which is why we have monopoly laws we have now. Because America was more capitalist then than it is now.
There's an analysis that when the government came in to split up the monopoly, they were losing monopoly power. And then the government comes in, splits it up, and Rockefeller actually, his wealth multiplied 7 times when they split up Standard Oil.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So the government came in, they made things even worse. And then now you've got the government in charge of things. And
well, you know, one thing though about like Carnegie Mellon and Rockefeller and a lot of these, they created foundations and they founded schools. They donated a lot of money to charity later in life. And I think it was simply, they were just like, I have too much money. And they were like, I might as well just give back. I don't even think they had tax incentives then as they do now, because the reason why a lot of corporations, like, they have these charities, so they collect money when you go check out. If you're in America, they'll ask you, do you want to donate this? That's a scam. They're using that money for tax purposes. It's they're getting money from you to write off their taxes.
Influence, power, and as you say, the common good. So when Gates spends his money as a philanthropist, he's just accumulating wealth, power. He's spending, and Soros, they're just spending their money in order to
power,
power,
influence, and tax write-offs. Yeah, tax avoidance is what they refer to it as. They didn't do this back in the day, like in the dawn of this is like what the second industrial revolution, towards the end of the second industrial revolution. The reality is, this was in the pre World War I, World War II, when they were accumulating all this wealth. This is the most wealthiest period in American history.
Gilded Age.
1850s. Yeah, Gilded Age is what we refer to it as. Because I refer to this modern Gilded Age as a digital Gilded Age. Same robber barons and technocrats and stuff. The difference being
they're empowering themselves with the power of government.
Correct.
And this is
correct.
Right. So someone said in my group chat, Liberty Rising chat, follow Liberty Rising group on Telegram, talking about Sadiq Khan, how knife crimes skyrocketed up, and he's literally spewing diarrhea out of his mouth. Someone said, well, you know, this is why aristocracy would never work. And I said, he's not an aristocrat. He hasn't gained his position legitimately or through heritage. This is democratic governance. He was elected by all the foreigners. This is democracy in manifest. This is a democratic governor. He's not an aristocrat. There's a big difference. This is what democracy breeds, not just the plunder, not just the extraction, not just the lack of noblesse, noblesse, however you say it.
I know what you mean. Yeah, of course.
Noble values, aristocracy. But it's designed to be subversive and to destroy things, because the enemy of democracy is you, the people. This is why the slogan of Britain, it used to be, I don't know, but now it's diversity is our strength. And what that means is diversity is the strength of the state, because a united populace is easy to divide and rule.
Correct. Divide and conquer. That's fascism. Yep. Yeah. That's the definition of fascism, is divide and conquer. I mean, that's basically what it is in textbooks. If you study political science, that's what they tell you. And that's what I mean. It's a technocracy and the guise of fascism through the 14th Amendment, diversity and equity and inclusion, basically to divide the people instead of uniting the people having common interests, common good, and sharing like-minded. And like I said, diversity is okay. I'm not talking about diversity in the sense of,
intellectual diversity.
There we go. Yeah.
Preferential diversity.
Correct. So
experiential.
The main thing is that people have a common interest. They pursue their, endeavors. They go to work for the common good of their company, because their company does well. They get promoted. They make more money. The business does well. These were the tradition. These were like the ethics and the foundations of business, during Rockefeller and all this. And of course, certain legislation and policies came about, unionization. And again, these were unions of trade. They were for the common good, to represent the people for the common good. I think some of these aristocrats that we talked about during Gilded Age, some were actually in support of the unions to an extent, because it alleviate their liabilities and things of that nature. They're like, well, it's on the unions, so if something happens, the unions are at fault, not me. So I'm working with the unions. The unions are in charge of health and safety and all this stuff and labor rights, and it's done. And then they were like, okay, we're in agreement. And we've lost this tradition over time. And like I said, when we hear of like equity and inclusion, this is an opposition of unionization, because unionization means that everybody's the same, and we are working towards a common goal or common good. So when you have equity and inclusion, it means that, oh no, this person that's been here for 30 years, that's a tradesman and does very well, he's compensated for, or she is compensated for their expertise and their knowledge and given promotions. Well, no, they need to be paid the same thing as somebody that just started yesterday. You see how the equity and inclusion is opposition to unionization, the whole fact that it is fascism, divide and conquer. So what's the incentive to work hard and put time in, if you're going to get paid the same as someone who has no experience and just comes in day one? It's like, hey, I make as much as you because I'm better than you, because of the how I was born or where I came from or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm better off than you because I'm important. me, I. Nobody wants to work hard anymore. That's the reality. And it's I think it was the boomers that really destroyed everything. Not to bash boomers, but they just didn't like the unions. They were like, oh no, I'll just represent myself. And it's like, well, you guys destroyed the unionization. Congratulations. Hope it's worth it. Yeah. I hope you enjoy your pension that you lost, because when they busted up the unions, what happened to the boomers and their pension? Go ask the firemen, the policemen, the paramedics, the teachers, and all the people in Detroit, Michigan during 2008 when they took the pensions and they paid off their debts and they got nothing. So I'm glad you guys destroyed the unions, because now you don't get your pension. So hope you're happy. Boomerization. Which is it's on my thumb. Yeah, it's on my thumb now. I had to throw the boomer in there because it was like, yeah, it is what it is. And that's who's in charge right now, the boomers, by the way. They're the ones that are destroying everything. They have no clue what they're doing. I'm amazed they haven't killed us, destroyed our civilization and killed us already by now. I thought they would have blown us up, nuclear weapons by now, And there was a couple, I think there was like 4 or 5 different chances it could have happened in history, mostly in the 80s during the Cold War. Apparently there was multiple times where the key was actually in. They were about ready to pull it. And someone was like, no. At both sides, Russia and the United States, they were like, no. Like they at least had some moral conviction, because a lot of people that were in the military during that time were conservative, and a lot of them were obviously religious in nature. So they were like, no, we're not killing a whole bunch of people, dude. We need to verify what the hell's going on. But it was in a couple of times from what I was told. Yeah, that's it. Any final thoughts? We're over an hour. I think we covered pretty much everything. Like I said, the economy grew. It's wonderful, Boaz, and wonderful lollipops and sundaes, and expect the Dow and crypto to skyrocket for the next couple weeks, hopefully, and wait for the next craziness, because like I said, it's the casino, and obviously Orange Man and all the different special interests want to make their money, so they're gonna keep doing this roller coaster yo-yo type thing to try to make as much profit as they can. So they'll try to come up with some type of wonderful little oh, this is gonna happen, and then okay, we'll crash, and they're gonna buy a bunch of stuff up, go back up, and basically steal more money from the retail investor. But I'm still waiting for the fall. Because I think there's going to be, like I said, my final conclusion is like, I think there's going to be a major correction in the commodities market. This isn't financial advice. It's just me saying what's happening in policy. I think that, like I said, there's gonna be AI bubble or burst, like the .com bust during the 90s. I think they're just the bankers have the gamblers and the bankers have invested way too much money in a lot of this goy slop, and it's the boomers especially, they don't know where to put their money, so they're just pissing it away everywhere they can, and eventually it's gonna burn them. It's gonna burn them bad. And I think they're gonna get burned on their real estate holdings, and they're gonna get burned on pensions and investments, and it's good, especially the bankers. I mean, we saw this in '08. The bankers got caught with their pants down. They were like, "Oh shit, I need a bailout." So I definitely, that's why I said Trump's going to be the UBI president in 2025, and we'll probably see this in the fall when we see a massive correction that I think is coming. The summer, like I said, it is what it is. You know, we saw the same thing in '07. When you compare the numbers from '07 to 2025, 2024, they're eerily similar. So I think a correction's definitely coming towards the end. We saw the hiccups already. So what do you think, Adam? Final conclusions. We'll go ahead and take it off.
I have nothing further to add. It's been a great podcast. Thank you.
Yeah. Like I said, like and subscribe. Follow Adam, Liberty the Rising Group. His links are in the description. Yeah, definitely, dude, subscribe. I'm trying to get, I just need one more subscriber for Rumble, and I'll be at 100. And yeah, and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching us there, and try to get to 500 so I can monetize. And monetization will be great, because then we can I could do a little bit more, and probably get a studio or something, you know, and then we can bring more guests on and stuff. When we get more subscribers, I can bring on more people. I've got a lot of you know, a lot of people, a lot of influencers that will come on, but they're just like, yeah, you need some more subscribers and I'll come on. And I don't want to mention who they are, but like, we had Terrence Pop on, we had Raymond for Raymond's Thoughts. I got some people that have substantial amount of subscribers. We're talking about 250, 1 million subscribers that will come on, but I just need more subscribers. So if you can help me out, subscribe, like, share. Same thing with Adam. That's it. I'll see you guys on Telegram and locals. Yeah, that's it. Peace.